When her film My Brilliant Career became an international success in 1979, she not only drew attention to the fledgling Australian film industry, but she also became the first woman to direct a feature film in Australia in 40 years. Today she continues to receive international acclaim for directing a diverse range of quality films in Australia and abroad. Showtime Greats shines the spotlight on Australian director Gillian Armstrong. In an exclusive interview with Showtime Greats, Armstrong gives us an insight into the making of some of her most popular films and tells us how she got into the industry.
I have to say that people probably don't remember, in the distant past, when I was a young student, there was no Australian film industry at all. There were no women directors. So I've often been asked, were you like Steven Spielberg, once sitting in the cinema thinking, I'll do that? And well, there were no Australian films, so I wasn't thinking I could ever do that. But the things that I liked, I loved theatre and I loved literature and I loved actors and I loved art. So I went to art school. And it was just one of those lucky breaks at the art school that I chose in Melbourne, which was at that time called Swinburne Tech, which is now the VCA, had a film course.
After Swinburne, Armstrong managed to get work as an assistant editor. It was while working in the industry that she realised she wanted to pursue a career in directing, but didn't know how. Fortunately, at that time, the Australian Film and Television School was just about to open, so Armstrong quickly applied. Along with Chris Noonan and Philip Noyce, she was in the first class to graduate and gained attention for her short 100 a day.
It was most fantastic training because I felt I was really tested as a director, because in the end it's about what you want and what your vision is. And so having such incredible support of wonderful people.
After graduating, Armstrong took every opportunity to work in the industry. It was during this period that producer Margaret Fink approached Armstrong with the script to My Brilliant Career. From the very start, Armstrong has had a knack for casting the perfect people for her films. As My Brilliant Career revolved around a strong female character, Armstrong had to find someone who could carry the film. She cast the then unknown Judy Davis, who turned out to be perfect for the part.
She did the most incredible reading. She walked out of the room, the casting director and I both burst into tears and hugged each other. I have never heard a more incredible reading in my life.
My Brilliant Career won a string of awards worldwide and was selected for Cannes, where it was a huge success. Armstrong and Davis were suddenly catapulted into the limelight.
I didn't even know what Cannes meant. And then this, oh, you've got to wear evening dress. What? I mean, I see the pictures now, and it's actually, I've just done the DVD for Brilliant Career, may as well give it a plug. And we've dragged out some of the photos, and I was in an op shop 1940s dressing gown that I cut the back out of, with my hair in a ponytail with like a plastic thing. So Judy and I and Margaret Fink were there, and it had this incredible screening where they all turned and, you know, auteur and all this, and we got a standing ovation.
In 1982, in an effort to avoid being pigeonholed as a period filmmaker, Armstrong made the new wave rock musical Starstruck.
It was really interesting. With Brilliant Career's success, I suddenly realised how easily you put in a box, and I was offered every single script that was set in the 1800s, and it was about a woman achiever. If there were a woman who'd climbed a mountain, they'd ridden a camel, so I went, hey, hang on a second, that's not, I think there was a lot of identification about My Brilliant Career, that it was me and it was Judy. I think the two of us, on one hand, it was wonderful that was our stepping stone into the world, but on the other hand, we've both had to keep saying, we are not Sibylla, that's Miles Franklin's character. So I really went out looking for something that was completely different. And friends of mine told me about this wonderful script that Stephen McLean had written called Starstruck, a new wave rock musical, sort of based on, Mickey and Judy put on a show, but in a new wave Aussie way. And I read it and really loved it.
In 1984, Armstrong was lured to Hollywood, where she directed the romantic drama Mrs. Sophel, starring Diane Keaton and Mel Gibson.
Well, I was actually a bit overwhelmed after Brilliant Career's success with all these Hollywood offers, because at that point no Australian directors were working in Hollywood, and it was something I'd really never thought about. And I think Australians know that we are different to them. I mean, they just buy up talent all around the world, but I could see that, you know, it was going to be different working in America. So anyway, but this script came my way when I was actually publicising Starstruck in New York.
In 1987, she released another Australian film, High Tide, starring real-life couple Judy Davis and Colin Friels.
I actually think it's a risky thing to cast a real couple, but they had been together for a number of years, because generally if you cast a real couple to play lovers in a film, they will for sure break up, and you'll be directing love scenes between two people who hate each other. But Judy and Colin had been together for a number of years, so we felt, well, why not? And they loved the idea of both. We shot it outside Merimbula, and you know, they got a house down there near the beach, and it was one of those shoots. It was a lovely place to be, and everyone had a great time.
In 1992, Armstrong received critical acclaim for the Australian drama The Last Days of Shay Nu. Written by one of Australia's most renowned authors, Helen Garner, it was nominated for 11 AFI awards. As well as choosing the right cast, sets, costumes and locations have always played an important part in creating the atmosphere in Armstrong's films. This was particularly so for The Last Days of Shay Nu, as the story revolves around the characters in a small household.
The thing about that house in Shay Nu was it was sort of a character on its own, and we spent a long time looking for somewhere. We actually, a couple of location searches were fired along the way because they kept saying, we can't find anything. And Peter found that terrace in Glebe, which has this great back, which is almost like a house in New Orleans, with a little wooden verandas and a wooden staircase. And we actually then, I took Helen there, and we rewrote the script around it and had scenes that played on those verandas and so on. So it really, that house became part of the story.
In 1994, Armstrong achieved huge box office success with a film adaptation of the classic novel Little Women. Part of its success was due to its wonderful ensemble cast, including Claire Danes, Susan Sarandon and Winona Ryder. Originally, though, Armstrong was hesitant about accepting the project.
I was offered Little Women actually a couple of times. I kept turning it down because I felt, as I said, you know, from that thing from the My Brilliant Career days, I thought, oh no, not another period film. Yes, a woman achiever. No. But the producer, Denise Denovi, who's since become a very close friend, was very persistent. And my American agent said, I really think you should think about this more seriously, not just throw it away. And Winona was already attached to it. So that was the next thing, because normally the director chooses the cast. So that was a key thing, to meet Winona, to decide, can she be Jo?
In 1997, Armstrong once again drew attention to the Australian film industry with her stunning adaptation of the Peter Carey novel Oscar and Lucinda. It also gave Cate Blanchett her big break, who played opposite Ralph Fiennes.
Peter, I have to say, probably because of his experience in advertising, was so generous.